Okay. Hi there.
Hello. Hi there. Hi there. Good morning, Grace.
Morning.
All right.
Hi,
you
everyone.
guys, it's Kate Richburg, Janice Parsons, and Grace Nolan behind the camera here at beadshop.com.
Yes.
All right. Well, if it's Facebook Live, it must be Wednesday.
It is. It is. I can always mark my week by that.
That's right.
Yep.
That's kind of like our Monday. The
Yes.
sun rises and sets on our Facebook Live.
It does.
So, ask me what I'm wearing.
What are you wearing, Kate?
What am I wearing? So Janice and I were having this little discussion right before we came on camera. This will teach her, to have this discussion. But this is a piece that one of us, we can't remember who. Janice thinks it's her piece. I can't even get it off now. Janice thinks it's her piece. And I seem to remember wire wrapping this way back in the day. So I don't know. The wire wrapping is so amazing.
I think you would have done a better job than on this.
Well, I'm going to show you. So one of us made this way back in the day. I'm going to have to look up my old bead shop, the bead shop class.
Okay.
Class.
I'm happy to give you credit for it, but I have such an impression of you teaching me how to do those amber.
It's so funny.
Stones.
So this is that old butterscotch amber.
Yeah.
This is a piece from when we had our brick and mortar store from Bead Shop, the Bead Shop when we were in Palo Alto. So it's kind of a cool.
You were the wire wrapping queen.
That's what
the
they
class
said.
director.
Yeah.
You taught us all how to wire wrap.
So I just thought it was sitting on my desk. So I thought I need a necklace to wear for this show. So I thought I'd put it on. This may also be familiar with you guys. If you watch the Facebook Live when Grace and I were in Tucson, that epic, windy, Gracie's laughing because she remembers that day like it was yesterday. We did a project that was really similar to this. So you guys can check out the Facebook Live page if you want to do some wire wrapping with heavy gauge. But I thought I'd share that with you. But yeah, that's what we were discussing right before we went on.
Right.
But it's a cool piece. I mean, this piece is probably almost 20 years old, and I think it still looks great.
I think it's at least 20 years old.
You think?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so too.
And the way that
with
you
wire.
taught us how to make thunderbolts. So when the wire was a little too loose, you would just
tighten it
tweak
up.
it, and you'd get these cute little thunderbolts.
Yeah, it's a fun piece.
But you definitely taught me how to wire wrap.
It was a team effort.
You're more than welcome to take credit for it. I think you just would have done a better job.
Who have we got out there, Gracie?
Oh my gosh, so many hellos. Let's start from the top. Susan says hello. Gita says hello with her kitties. Melanie says hi. She's not going to be here very long. She has an appointment. Gwyn says she's excited for today's show.
Hey,
Linda,
Mom.
Bonnie,
Hey,
Darla.
Hi, everybody.
Let's see, Linda, Trish,
thank you so
Christine,
much for joining us
Laura,
today.
and Deb, and a lot of comments on your necklace.
Oh, thanks.
Great.
It's really fun to make, and if you do check out that Facebook Live, you can work. We do have stones that you can some cool kind of dyed howlite stones that you could use, but you could use any nuggety or big stone that you might have in your bead stash.
I have to correct you on the blue stone you used in
It's not a dyed howlite?
It is not. It
What
is
is-
natural turquoise.
What is it, Janice?
It is natural turquoise.
Really?
It's old, yes.
Oh,
I
didn't-
checked
I'm
with
sorry.
the warehouse. I know, but it is actual. It's turquoise. It's not.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, it's a great price.
Did you change the copy?
I did.
She's so good.
I think I really did change the copy because I went back because we were, what were we going to do with the kits, and then we started. We wanted to sell them as strands, so I think they've gone up as strands.
Great.
I'm not sure.
Well,
but we can check.
Yeah, we'll check and let you guys know.
Yeah.
But it's really a fun, I love the project. It's really fun to do.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of projects, before we jump into our epic jewelry repair day today, because we're going to try and keep on task because we got so many great questions and so many things to share. What we did, Janice and I hustled a little bit this morning and we came up with kind of a cool study guide for this episode.
Well, you did.
Well, it was
Take credit.
Well, we hustled, we proofed it, we got it up there. I did.
I
did
give
an
credit
amazing.
when you.
I did an amazing job.
You did.
Thank you very much. It's a good microphone. I like this. I can also use my toothbrush.
Okay.
And so if you go to the Facebook Live page for this episode on our website, there's there's a download handout button. You can go and click on that and download the PDF handout. And you can, it's kind of like a study guide, I'm calling it, for this show. So it has the questions that we're answering, and it also has some of the tips. You can make notes on that guide to remind yourself. And if you're watching this later, not live, you can go right to that link, download the study guide, and make your notes on it as well. Because we think it'll be a pretty valuable resource for you. We also got a couple of really cool emails this week from you guys. Last week, I don't know if you guys remember, I did a little shout out to ask people to send me photos of their workspace. So one of our viewers, Sandy Luck, Sandy, you may be out there watching us. But Sandy, you sent us a couple of really cool pictures of your workspace that I wanted to share with you guys. We also wrote a tutorial and a blog post about it. So if you go to beadshop.com, you can see the editorial right at the bottom of our homepage. And then if you go to our blog, the bead table and the blog link is right at the bottom.
And I like what you said about breaking up your studio space into to answer 3 important questions.
Yeah.
So, do you want to share with everyone?
What are those questions? Yeah,
I'll
tell you right now.
Creativity.
Yeah.
Organization. What are the 3? I forget just going from one room to the next what I went into the room for.
Well, let me go to the blog here real quick. So the blog post that we wrote, I wrote a little bit about creative spaces and your creative space. Should
we show Sandra's?
Yeah, I'll show that, and I have those photos up. So on our blog, the Bead Table, creative spaces, I talked about 3 different things that creative spaces, it seems to me, have in common. One, that your creative space needs to have some inspiration. 2, having some organization in your creative space. And these are cool pictures of Janice's repair stash, how she organizes them.
Oh, it's not organized.
Well, I think it's cool. I think it's cool to see. And then the last thing is ownership of that space. You know, living here in the Bay Area, it's really a premium. You know, space is really sometimes at a premium for us. So I tell my students all the time, whether you have a large room or a cozy corner in which to practice your craft, proudly proclaim it my studio. I think that's really important. Yes. Because you're taking ownership of your space. That's the space that you create. So Sandy, what she shared with us, she shared a couple of really cool, let me make sure that my brightness is all the way up here. Yes. She shared, and I don't know, Gracie, if you can see.
Don't move it anymore. I can see it.
You're good? Okay. A couple of her photos of her cozy corner, her workspace. This one here, you can see she has a nice little corner area, and it's full of inspiration. She's got some inspiration, you know, up here on her little bulletin board. She's got a cute little mini quilt on the back of that chair. And Sandra, I want to know if you made that quilt. Sandy or not, are you a quilter? Because if you are, we're kindred spirits. She's got some organization up here with her books and things. And she's beading with friends. There's Janice and I right on her screen.
I know.
And we do hear from a lot of our viewers of our Facebook Lives that they actually watch them on YouTube. Because on YouTube, what you can do is you can blow that YouTube feed up big, and so you can watch us pretty big on either your TV screen or your monitor. Oh, bless you.
I never sneeze.
Well, bless you, bless you.
Thank you.
And so you do have 3 ways you can watch that. You can watch our Facebook Lives, of course, here on our Facebook Live page, or after the broadcast, they're archived on the video tab. You can go to our YouTube channel, beadshop.com, or you can go right onto our website on our Facebook Live page, so you can find them all that way.
Can I just I have a special shout out I promised to somebody yesterday.
Yes, you did.
Mimi said hello. Mimi checked in, and she is a very enthusiastic beader who's always submitting to Beater Showcase, and I just wanted to thank her and wish her hello.
Oh, hi.
So,
Hi,
we have a lot of
Mimi.
hellos, but I promised her specifically yesterday that I would give a special one.
That's great. Well, hello to you, Mimi. We also, on the page, if you take a look at the blog post, you'll also see Sandy's kind of cool way that she repurposes an old jewelry box to put her seed beads into. And then we got one from Beth from Wagga Wagga, Australia. And Beth is working on our Grace kit from from Brittany's the Nicole Challenge. Yeah. And it was cool to see her. There's her. She's using the macrame board. Good one, Beth. I love that macrame board for laddering. And you can see she's got everything around here all ready to work, but it's a nice feature of Grace there. So she's working on that all the way in Australia.
This would be a fun thing to post each week. Is someone, and it would be nice if you don't mind doing a selfie where you actually take a picture of yourself and
in your workspace.
You in your workspace. That would be a lot of fun.
And we'd love to share them on our Facebook page and stuff. That'd be great. So keep those coming, you guys. We love them. So I guess without further ado, I guess it's time. Though, do you have questions, Gracie?
No. I just want to say, Whitney is brand new to our Facebook Live today, but she is a shopper and she loves our store. And she asks when we get to meet Grace.
Oh, well, we might have to just turn the camera around.
Well, do you want me to just run over?
Are we good?
Come on.
Let's show our Gracie Grace. We've shown our Ivan, but there's our Grace. There
Hi, everyone.
she is.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's
Jen's
behind
awesome.
the camera.
Yeah, Jen. Oh, there we go. Thank you, Jen. That's our Grace.
Everyone.
You know, she does. Grace is our graphic designer here and she and Karen both make our website look so great. So, but she also makes us look great online.
Yes.
So that's great. Ask and ye shall receive.
Yes.
So welcome, you guys. Okay.
So what are we doing today, Kate?
I don't know. What are we doing? Oh, it's time for jewelry repair.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
What are we doing today?
So here's the copy of the little study guide that I've created for you guys. So here we are, jewelry repair. And, you know, one of the things that our customers used to call, especially Janice, when we would do this at the store, when we do jewelry repair and we had our brick and mortar store, was the bead doctor. And we would always joke, well, the bead doctor's in and we're ready to go. So the bead doctors are in. We've got a list of some of the things we're going to use in this broadcast. And let's go right to our first question. And you have the photo right there. Right. But the question was, I recently found this necklace that's very special to me. My daughter found it and broke it in the early 80s, so it is time to get it repaired. I've taken a couple of pictures, close-up of the piece, and I don't think there's any knotting, just double cord passing through. Her question is, what type of cord should she use to repair it? And what kind of needle? The beads are heavy, and I believe I would just thread the needle as if sewing and start by passing through the first bead and continue on until I get to the other bead clasp, knot, and glue. So a couple of the points that we want to consider whilst we're looking at this piece, we're going to talk about restoring versus repairing, what cord and needle we should use, and to knot this piece or not, and first and foremost, is that clasp still usable? So Janice, all things vintage jewelry, take it away.
Okay, so the answer is yes and no.
Okay.
Many of these necklaces that look like this actually are from anywhere from the 20s to the 60s. And a clasp like this, which is a barrel clasp, is an indication that it's older rather than one of the newer ones. The beads, I just want to talk real quickly about the beads. The beads can be a combination of ivory, which would have been used in the front, finished up with bone in the back. That was a fairly common practice because you'd see the front, and that's where everyone would like the really nice beads. Then ivory was outlawed, but this was way before ivory was outlawed.
Well, one of the things that she mentions, I didn't put it in this, she mentions that these were made of billiard balls.
Billiard balls.
Which were probably ivory. Old, back from the 20s. So...
Yes, I'm thinking that, yes, maybe the little black beads, maybe. I don't know. I saw a lot of these over the years. This is the first, I mean, it's possible. I've just never heard that they were made of billiard balls. They were. It was a popular necklace motif with this
that clasp.
With this clasp. And I just want to, for a second, just draw the clasp for everybody, so that we have the one side here, and then on this side we have like a screw and a little tube end, and then you have your first bead here, and then another bead and another bead, and on the way around until a bead over here. So before we get to what string to use, what thread to use, what you have inside here is you normally have like a little tube
that's also threaded,
that's been glued in here, that usually has to come out, and you have to take, and that's where it gets very hard to reuse these clasps, because when you try to get that out, you can use tweezers. It's been glued in usually,
and it's probably pretty brittle. My memory of when we see necklaces like this is the clasp gets so much wear and tear that it's just brittle.
So if you can get the thread out, but leave that in. If you can get the thread out, then what I'd like to see you do is knot your new thread and string it through this way and go all the way around. And then when you come out on this side, you can cut the needle off and tie your threads into like a double knot. If this is too big of a knot, then it's not going to screw in there correctly.
Right.
It won't ever really close. So I don't know, Grace, if you can come in close on this and see that it's just a tiny little ball, and that's about what you want to recreate. And then you'd obviously put glue on that. If you can't reuse this clasp, then you're going to take this off and just use any clasp you want.
With an end tip. So you wouldn't have her... This needs to be completely restrung, in your opinion, correct?
I
agree.
I don't know. How would you mean just like leave this back? Because I think by now the thread is rotted.
I agree. So I wouldn't like start here and try and mend this with a new piece of thread. I think this needs to be completely restrung.
Well, that would be my inclination. Would be to try and to start fresh. And just make sure that when you are calculating how much thread you need, that because this is a barrel clasp and because there's no knots in between, you have to leave enough air for the beads to breathe.
To move around.
So, but that would be the thing, is if you can thread your thread this way and put your knot there at the end, then it's probably reusable.
And Gracie has a question.
Bonnie's asking if we can replicate the clasp with polymer clay.
You know, Bonnie, that is an amazing idea. What you could do, if you do any, you could make some kind of reproduction or some imitative stuff with polymer clay that really matches this.
What you could do,
and you could embed a barrel clasp in it.
Exactly. You could take the barrel clasp that you have on page 3 or 4, and I don't know that much about polymer. Can you bake the right in?
So what
and then
you would
have your metal clasp inside. Just leave the round loop on the outside.
So I would make a little bullet shaped thing or whatever like this is of the polymer. I'd embed half of my barrel clasp in it on one side, and then I do the same thing on the other, and then maybe down here, or when the barrel clasp is here, sometimes you can get those barrel clasps that have holes in them rather than loops, to string all the way through. If you got that, then you could just string it all the way through here, or you could make this a little loop and string onto that.
While we're on the subject of barrel clasps, there are a lot of necklaces that need repairing that do have those barrel clasps
with the holes,
that just have the holes on the ends. And you go, how am I supposed to do this? All you have to do is take one side apart, take a head pin, put it through that opening, bring it down so that it's sitting right in here, bring it down, and then I like to wire wrap it. And then have on either side, you can reuse that barrel clasp. Otherwise, it is so hard to try and get the right tension.
Yeah, you're trying to get
it's
that
really,
knot. And
it's really, really hard.
I was going to grab the
So while you're grabbing, you're grabbing the head pins.
Any other questions about this one, Grace?
No, that was it.
I just want to show you guys what that head pin would look like. I would use probably our 22 gauge. I know I have one right here. Here we go.
Just a nice sturdy,
a nice sturdy one.
Sturdy head
And see,
pin.
it just sits right
inside. Yep,
Right.
there it is, and then you just wire
It's
wrap it.
such a good idea.
And then now you have a barrel clasp you can reuse. Because a lot of those, what were those beads that were shells from Hawaii?
Like puka shells.
Millions
Always have
of
that.
puka shells had that barrel clasp with no loop on the end, done on, like, what was that?
Like monofilament.
Monofilament. I can't remember my words. Okay.
So would we knot this? Would you knot this?
If you were an experienced knotter, yes, you could knot this. I would say it's just from my memory of the size holes. I would say that
big.
They're good size holes. If you wanted to just string, I would use like fine weight Ceylon. If you wanted to knot, I think you could also use fine weight Ceylon. Regular Ceylon is going to be a little too heavy and coarse, and
you'd use a double
You'd
string.
use it double. If you wanted to knot, you might have to do it 3 thicknesses. And so for those of you out there who are not familiar with knotting, so this is where you use it double, and if it makes a knot that just slips into the bead hole, what you can do is you can add another thread through here.
So you're knotting.
And so where you're knotting down here, you have 3 thicknesses. You needed 4 thicknesses, you could do the 4 thicknesses.
You could bring it down.
Yeah, so we'll have another session on knotting where we talk about, adding and dropping threads. And then I would just use the flexible line needle, and I would string it and make sure that you leave enough air for the beads to breathe. They're sturdy. These beads are really not going to break. If anything, they get a little brittle. You could wash them before you started. I would just use a very mild, like, Dove or one of the solutions for dishwashing. The really mild liquid, the one they do the birds with. Dawn. I would use just a tiny bit of Dawn and some warm water and just rinse the beads. Because they're organic and they're not painted, and you don't have to worry about any of that. And then just let them dry them, roll them on a towel gently. It'll get any kind of debris out from between the beads.
Between the beads, it likes to gather by the holes.
But oftentimes these are stained in the back from where they become different colors. Enjoy them. That's just the way it is. Enjoy them. But you will see maybe the difference in the color because some are bone and some are ivory, and they patina differently. Okay, does that...
Questions?
That was great. No.
Great.
Okay.
So let's look at
What's next?
tarnish.
Tarnish.
What the heck to do about it? So we've got 2 questions here. One of the questions we got emailed in was, how is jewelry made with pearls and stones and sterling silver or pure silver supposed to be cleaned and stored? I usually don't use patinas and am reluctant to gift pieces that would briefly have a lovely color but then get tarnished, right? Do all beaders inherently know the answer to pearl and silver or stone and silver maintenance, and I just didn't get one of those genes? All advice and or sympathy appreciated. And then my mom actually sent me some jewelry kind of on this same vein. She sent me some things that were tarnished and wanted to know about how we might go about dealing with these things. So first and foremost, when we have metal jewelry that you make or store, there's a couple of ways that you can prevent it, right? How do you prevent tarnishing on your jewelry?
Well, you can get the strips,
They're by 3M, I think.
I don't know the words today.
They're little tarnish. They're little
They're
like
anti-tarnish
strips. Tabs, yeah. And they are usually a little square like that, and they're made by 3M, I think.
You get them at a hardware store. You can put them in with your silver flatware. You can put them in with anything, and then you just seal it. Use it in your jewelry box, which is basically sealed.
I like to also put when
them
I
in,
do it in a plastic baggie.
Yeah.
The other thing that I do, you know, if you guys get little packages of silica gel, you know, it says do not eat those little packages that come with your leather shoes or things like that to keep moisture down.
They come in everything.
Yeah, I have a whole stash of those. I also throw a few of those in my tool drawer with my pliers.
Never knew
but
that.
I also throw them in with anti-tarnish, and it really helps a lot.
I never knew that. The only thing I would stay away from is using, especially with jewelry like your mother's pin, where there's, you know, grooves and ups and downs of it. I would not use anything like a silver polish that is going to get into the grooves.
Right, and stay.
I mean, almost any abrasive will clean silver. You can use like fireplace ashes with a toothpick. You could use toothpaste. That's like, you know, that's also an abrasive. But then you have to worry with like the toothpaste or silver polish. It's going to get in there in those little places, and it gets hard to remove. You could rinse it, and then you get most of it off. But I think it's just, my feeling is it's just better. I usually start with something dry if I want to just get the surface. And so the Pro Polish pad, do you want me to?
Yeah, I think the Pro Polish, what I love about this, and a lot of times when I'm selling my jewelry or if I'm, you know, giving my jewelry as gifts, I will go ahead and add a little Pro Polish pad into like the little packaging. So it's a cool added value for your customer or your giftee. And you can use these Pro Polish pads forever. And notice how Janice is starting on the back of this piece. So we checked it out and it's stamped. It says that it's sterling, so we knew it was sterling silver. This Pro Polish pad is like a little square, and you can see the side, how it's a little bit of a foam rubber there. It has a little bit of tooth to it, and it's impregnated with a little bit of polishing agent. So you can see that Janice is just using a really light touch, keeping some of that tarnish on there as a kind of an antiquing method. But see how nice, just even this hand polishing.
If you take away the dark, then you lose the design. So that's why putting it in polish cleaner and
will take everything away.
It'll take everything. You know, it takes all the. It would be like taking Navajo jewelry, a squash blossom necklace,
and dipping it in jewelry cleaner.
And that's where on Antiques Roadshow they go, don't do that. You literally take away all of the value and the years of the patina. But restoring this,
isn't that pretty?
Yeah, you see, I go in the direction of whatever the design is, you know, just, and then I also like to get the side. I go, and I'll do this with like chains. I'll take the chain
like that and pull it through like I'm doing.
Yeah.
And something like this is an old Mercury dime bracelet that my mom sent me. She knows how much I love coins and Mercury dimes. This side of the chain here, I'll just run it. See how I just have it? I'm not going to overly polish this. But see how on this side, if I'm just stroking the pad across the chain, can you guys see the difference between the side that I've just polished and the side that I haven't? And just a little bit of that restoration actually is pretty nice.
So as I clean, I'm also rotating the piece so that I'm not, you know, because this is held together with like soldered. We look at the back
elements, right?
It's like there's like some of these things are held together on just a thin band of metal, and if I'm just going like
way too
I'm
vigorous.
I'm not honoring the piece. So I'm working in the direction a little bit at a time.
And Gracie, you had a question.
We have two questions. One person asked,
Pardon my reach.
could you tumble the tarnished piece, and if so, what ingredient would you use?
Okay.
And we have another question that asks, I know that they say that, this is actually Mimi, she's saying, I know that they say that people like to have a little bit of the tarnish on, but she says, who wants to wear a tarnished piece of beautiful silver jewelry?
Yeah. Well, I think maybe we're talking the difference between tarnish and antiquing. So if Janice flashed this right at the thing, and you can see like if we were looking at the back, like this leaf, we can see that there's a lot of tarnish and stuff on here. But when we turn it over, we can see that there's some of the blackening that was probably originally on this piece to, as you say, Janice, to bring out the highlights and the texture. So I think we want to differentiate between a tarnished piece that looks dirty and a piece that looks antiqued.
Well, it
looks, it's also personal preference for sure.
It is. But to me, it's now it looks like $1 million. Now it looks, like wow, that piece is. We're showing it, I think, to its best advantage. It wouldn't look bad. I would wear it all dark. It would look fine. And there are many metals that are dark like that, especially now with steampunk and vintage and the dark metals. It would be very common to see that all in a dark silver. I prefer, if it looks
having
like
the
that.
highlights and shadows with it.
I like so.
Well, I also wanted to share this tip about cleaning. My mom also sent me this penny cuff, which is kind of funny, kind of cool, soldered together. And a lot of you may have metals that are mixed metals, things like that. This technique would only be for metals that aren't plated. So, like Janice is polishing this piece, we checked, we know that it's sterling. We know that these mercury dimes have a high silver content, about an 80% silver content with mercury dimes, and that this chain here is sterling. So things that are plated, this doesn't really apply to. But one of the ways, and then I'll address the question about tumbling. What I do a lot sometimes to clean my pieces, especially copper, and like if I'm enameling with copper, or if I have copper pieces, pieces of jewelry that I'm cleaning, I use, this is citric acid, okay? And citric acid this is a food grade, non-toxic, granular, powder, abrasive. Yeah. And citric acid, we use it in a lot of different things in the kitchen. We use it in canning. You can find a little jar of citric acid in the canning aisle of your store. There's also a cleaner called Penny Bright, and Penny Bright is like a soap that the citric acid is suspended in, and you'd find it in your pot cleaning aisle. It was made to clean the bottom of copper pots, clean the fire scaler, the darkening when you heat them. So it's called Penny Bright. But for this is just citric acid that I'd use. I'm going to pour a little bit of water.
I want you to try a little on this too.
Yeah, I will. And you could also use this on silver. And I do this a lot. I just have an old toothbrush here, and I'm getting a little bit of my citric acid here, and I'm going to get in here, and you can see already. Now this is, of course, with this penny bracelet.
Oh, look
see
at that.
how, it'll take the abrasive. It's not something that's super delicate, that has a lot of stones. This is mostly metal. Sometimes also to kind of make the effect, or not, just kind of let the citric acid do its thing. I just cover it a little bit with my wetted citric acid here, make a little paste, and then I'll let it sit for a few moments, and then I'll come in and clean. But can you see already, you guys, that citric acid is just cleaning this metal beautifully. And it's also a good first step if you do any enameling on copper. I'm seeing a lot of my students now, my metalsmithing students, getting into enameling, just torch enameling. And this is a great way to clean those pieces up. And then we just rinse it in some water. I'm just going to dip it right here in this little cup. And you don't need to worry about your fingers. It's just, a little citric acid going on in there. But can you see the difference between what we've got? I'm going to dry it off. And so if I were doing it on that pin, let's see, you can see the nice difference here. It works really nicely on copper.
So it's not going to damage stones.
It will not damage stones. So
I'm kind of curious on some of this, because the tarnish is really
in there.
It's embedded itself in the silver now. It's almost like these pro polish pads are not going to get
Right in there
and get that off. How do you?
So I'll get my little citric acid bath. I'll get some on my toothbrush, and this is a nice soft bristle brush. And I'll just come in.
Is that going to take that off? You think?
I think it might. And see how I have something, you guys, behind it, supporting the pin, so I'm not like holding it up in the air. I'm not being overly vigorous with it.
It's working, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure
it's
is.
Taking off the.
And can you see the tarnish is coming right off onto my.
So you would do this with care, so you wouldn't take all the dark out, just enough, because the value in it is that it's an antique.
I don't want it to look like a brand new piece that I got at the department store.
That takes the value, the value out of it. Yeah, but look at that. I learned something today.
I've been using the citric acid trick. A lot of times we use this as pickle when we're cleaning the fire scale off of our pieces, and then just dipping this in water is not going to harm this at all.
No.
I'm not too worried about the stone. I don't really know what this stone is, and my guess is my mom doesn't really either. This could be like a glass stone. It could be a topaz, but it's probably a glass.
Yeah.
And can you see how really nice and shiny, just getting that.
Yeah.
And not just a little bit of elbow grease, not a whole lot.
Would you do it a little bit right over here?
On
just
that
so
leaf? Sure.
I want to just everyone to see how you can put a little on and not also lose the value of the darkening in the leaves.
Question, Gracie?
No, Faye says that she uses Calgon, tinfoil, and boiling water for some metal jewelry, especially chains. And Mimi says that she's used that and that it's not always the best for silver. She says
the citric acid?
The foil cleaning way.
Oh,
I think
foil.
What Faye was saying. And then Lynn asks if we can seal a piece once you've used pro polish pads.
Oh, yeah, sealing. You know, look at how great this is looking.
Someone says
I want to get a piece of dark, dirty chain.
Lemon juice. And another person asks says ketchup cleans copper well.
It does.
And
I have a little bit of soapy water here.
And Gwen says she thinks it's glass.
Yeah.
And let me see, there was one more, I'm sorry.
You mean, Ma, you didn't send me a big topaz pin? Oh, the tragedy of it all.
Oh, and Susan asks, she loves your mercury dime bracelet, nickel bracelet. She wants to know how it was made.
You know, that's a traditional, I think that piece was probably made in Mexico, and my mom can probably confirm that for me. It also may have been made in the Southwest jewelry trade. Mercury dimes were really, really used a lot in kind of Native American jewelry, Southwestern jewelry. I use them a lot. I make beads with them. I dap them and make beads. But these little, if you can see, here's the dime. You can see the dime. And can you see that there's a little loop that's just been soldered to the side of each of these? And then those little loops have been connected with a link here. So probably all of these dimes were laid out, the links were soldered onto the ends, and then they were soldered one by one with those links together. But it's a really cool, one. So I've just really rinsed this nicely. Look at how nice that leaf came out.
Looks great, yeah.
So I've rinsed that really nicely. Anything that's acid-based, you guys, anything that's an acid will work. The lemon juice, ketchup, I've used ketchup. I've used Coca-Cola, the citric acid in Coke also works. You know, in a pinch, when you're teaching a metalsmithing class and you realize that you forgot your pickle, you have to think creatively. So
I would caution everyone if you've got something soft in there, like pearls, coral,
turquoise,
yeah, anything that's porous. Ketchup, I wouldn't put ketchup.
No. And most of these things I would put on the metal anyway and not on the stones.
Right. But sometimes you have pearls that are inset, like in this, you have a pearl in the center.
You want to be really careful.
Yeah, I would be very, very careful.
Yep.
Your mom wants us to show the clasp on this
on the
bracelet, I
On the bracelet? Yeah, and the clasp, you can see how the clasp is just built in on, soldered on the dime. So it's pretty cool.
So I wanted we were talking just a real quick second about chain. I was just going to hold up my little box when I would do repairs. I would have a bin like this that's just repair chain, you know, that
You'd have little bits.
And half the fun, I think, of designing is going through and finding the little bits I want to use. That's half that's my creative process. But a chain like this, I know it's sterling, is I would just run the cloth, the Pro Polish pad like that
over the top
along
of
it, turn it over.
So it's supported underneath.
Yeah, or I would, this is the wrong one to do it with, but I would also go like this, hold it like this and run it. But yeah, you want to make sure it's supported. This chain's delicate. So
question. Faye wants to know if the baking soda on tinfoil with boiling water is not okay.
Well, no, I think I've seen that mostly, Faye, used for like
I have
like
to wash
flat.
my
Well,
hands.
yeah, do it. With flatware, I see that a lot. I think if you have something that's like something that'll take all of the tarnish away. I actually haven't tried it personally, but I do know students and customers who have done it. So I don't think it'll harm your stuff, but I think it will also take all of the tarnish away to make it look super silver.
Yeah.
That's my...
Which is nice if you want a shiny new chain.
thing.
And it's a great idea. I can use that for my flatware. I love anything that's gonna...
Roberta says she was at a Mary Kay party once and the face cleaner took the antiquing right off her rings.
Oh. I'm not going to touch that one with the 10-foot pole.
And Gwen says that the pin looks so good she might want it back.
Sorry, Ma.
And
I'm going to put it on. There we go.
Gita says, I did that with my necklace from my sister-in-law and it broke. That's how it ended up with broken chain. I'm not sure what that means.
Oh. So you soaked it, Gita? Clarify that for us. There we go. I'm going to wear that pin. Well, while we're doing that, we're going to... Are you ready to wash your pearls? Do you have that ready?
I can talk through it.
Okay, talk through it. So let's talk a little bit about... we got someone saying, my pearls broke.
Right.
What do I do? And if
Actually,
a necklace...
I am ready.
Yeah, and we've got that going on.
Sorry,
Yeah.
before we move on, we
sure.
didn't address the tumbling question.
Oh, yes.
And
Thank
Gita says that it was the Pro Polish pad that broke the necklace.
Okay, so Gita, I have yours in the lineup here, and we'll talk about that when we get to it. The tumbler. Okay, so you guys, we actually have a tumbler here at Bead Shop that we use once in a while to polish. For those of you who don't know what a tumbler is a motor that has a rubber barrel on the top. There is a stainless steel shot in that rubber barrel, and you put that on the motor, the rubber barrel rotates, and the burnishing action of that stainless steel shot shines your piece. We use that a lot in the world of metalsmithing. Like after I made this ring, I threw it in the tumbler for a little while to polish and to work harden it. The thing that Janice said about stones being soft also applies to things that you would put in the tumbler. So I do tumble a lot of things to mass finish them. I don't do chains because they'd come out in a big tangle. I don't do things that have stones in them. So like for instance, when I made this ring, I tumbled it, but I didn't set the stone until after I tumbled it. Same thing, like if you have like metal components or metal pieces, let's say you have maybe a bunch of sterling silver clasps, you can throw those in the tumbler. The media that I use in the tumbler is a couple of squirts of Dawn dishwashing liquid in the water, and it works. So, but you want to keep that for metals that are pure metals. Again, not things that are plated. You don't want to, God forbid, put crystals or anything like that that have a coating. That coating will tumble right off. Like Janice has on her cuff right here, how she has those beads that have an
Fire
iris
polish,
coating
yeah.
or fire polish.
That
That
would
is a
come right
no,
off.
that's a no.
And pearls are
Nunca.
a no-no. You
Yeah.
don't want to tumble. And I would just say, don't put antique jewelry in a tumbler
No, I wouldn't.
ever.
Antique jewelry wants to be.
Yeah, yeah.
But
yeah.
this, but let's say like this. maybe not this, but if I were fabricating a bracelet that was kind of like this, I might mass finish it in the tumbler for maybe 20 minutes. Maybe I wouldn't, but something like this, when you fabricate a piece, or if you have like this cuff, this would be fine in the tumbler. Nothing's going to happen to this. But things that are more delicate, like I would never tumble your vintage bracelets or anything like that.
And I wouldn't tumble
I
that.
probably wouldn't tumble
I
this
would
either.
be afraid that
I'm just
maybe
gonna put
the
this
bar of the clasp might bang
get,
and get loose,
yeah.
or the chain is being held on by a nice little eye pin.
Yeah,
and
I don't want any of that to happen.
like, again, it's antique jewelry. I wouldn't put anything that finished jewelry or antique components that are to you are like priceless. Precious. I just wouldn't do it. It's just take out the rag and polish it by hand.
So if you have, so there's a couple of questions for, so is that okay? We're
Perfect.
good? So there are two things to note that we want to talk about with pearls. If a necklace breaks and you lose some pearls or beads, how do you remake it if you don't have enough to make at least a choker style? And we had another question about, I'm interested in restringing pearls. How do I clean them? And the third thing is, we want to talk about how to cut a piece or pearls, or in this case, semi-precious vintage coral. How do we do that to prepare that for restringing?
Okay, so let's start with the first, which is I don't have enough pearls. I've cut it.
What do I do?
I swear by a channel design board like this.
I love this.
Because you can line up all, especially if you're, and this happened all the time at the shop, the pearls would come to us in a bag.
In a sad bag.
In a bag, and it just
Or
went
an
all
envelope.
over the floor.
Yeah.
Maybe they were knotted, maybe they weren't. And so you could use a board like this. Usually, the ones that broke the most were those single strand of pearls that all of our mothers and grandmothers had. The kind of Jackie O, or even before her, the single strand glass pearls
That were graduated.
And I don't know why they were mass produced with the never an even amount on either side.
No. And usually,
I don't know why.
And usually not knotted. Sometimes
They were not. They
But
were
they weren't
glass
knotted.
pearls. So will you hand me the black pen? So they were glass
Here it
pearls.
is.
Don't tell me. Don't. No one can tell me why. Here. So they went like this, and they'd have a bigger pearl. But honest to goodness, if you have a strand of those out there, more than likely this bigger pearl was not in the center. It was off by one pearl. Who knows why, whether they thought they were balancing it, but there was always one side that had less than the other, even when they were together. So what I like to do, because these used to come in a sandwich bag.
Yeah, sandwich bag.
And it would break.
I'm not kidding. I had a lady bring them once in her shoe. She had a shoe that she put on the counter. She dumped the shoe out. I'm kidding you not. And the pearls were in her shoe.
Right. And oftentimes it had like, they'd have a little clasp like this. This little clasp. This is fairly common.
Fish hook
The
clasp.
fish hook clasp. It was usually in sterling. It opens like this. It pinches. And then it goes out sideways. This is sort of the classic,
The classic
fish
pearl
hook,
clasp.
and then you just pinch it, and it's a nice secure clasp. So the first thing is you want to line up your pearls.
Yeah, lay them out
and
and see how much you
graduate it.
have. Yeah.
Right. And whether you have a full strand or not, you can always add, either redesign it, that's restyling it, add other beads, or you could add a chain
Yeah, you could extend it.
extender. And make it longer. So you're going to want to, depending on if you're going to put it on wire, but however you end it, you could add on one side a piece of chain. And to make it even special, you could take a little bead, wire wrap the end of it, and on this side you could use a lobster claw clasp like this. Doesn't have to be,
doesn't have to be super
too
fancy.
big. I didn't put like specific chain
That's
here.
a nice chain though.
But this is a nice chain. It's maybe a little. It's a little bit. I think it's a little big. We could link to a chain that's a circle back would be nice. But
The
then
smaller
this,
one.
but then you could put the chain on this side, and this could go into it. I'm thinking that this pearl necklace I have on now
that
has this has to be reknotted.
It's
this
really
is,
delicious, though.
So, but this is this has on one side exactly what I'm talking about. Let's turn the paper over so that
it's nice and fresh.
so I took a broken charm bracelet, and they need to be cleaned, these stones. But I took a broken clasp. See, it's missing. It's a box clasp. It's missing, and I didn't want to get rid of it. It's 24 karat gold.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
So I put a couple of charms from a charm bracelet my mother gave me that was not wearable anymore, and I added those to this strand of pearls, which everyone can see they really are dirty. They need reknotting, and I'm going to. But on this one side, I have just a simple lobster, and I have on this side a piece of chain so that I can make it adjustable.
It's a nice way to close it.
But often when you're repairing jewelry, the pearls at the back,
they're glued in.
Well, they
thread.
are. Sometimes they can be glued in, but you also, because that's where your hair shampoo has been, or your lotion or whatever, that's where it's rubbing against the skin, is those 2 inches of pearls on either side. You will find often here, this is where your pearls lose their nacre, and they're just, what happened? My pearls aren't shiny anymore. They're organic. They will lose,
lose their luster.
So the more expensive the pearls, the thicker the nacre, the longer they'll last.
This shows a nice this little end.
Yeah,
that you did. This shows that
could
really
be
nicely.
polished.
But look at how nice that little piece of chain and just a little dangle.
Yeah, little dangle
right
on one
bottom.
side, and then on the other side is just the little lobster, right?
Yeah,
I
lobster.
love that's just like
I like that closure.
A favorite of mine is that
closure.
Yeah.
So how would we cut these apart then, Janice?
Okay, so the best way is to use a flush cutter.
I'm going to use that. I'm going to hand you.
This is a coral necklace of mine that broke.
I'm going to actually get you.
And
I'm going to get you your favorite cutter for that too.
Oh, this works great.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying this morning.
Oh, sorry.
This is I usually use the yellow handled flush cutters, but can you see that, Grace?
Yeah.
Okay. This is great. These are the Zuron.
The Zuron Maxi Share.
Yeah. This is it's not, you want something that's flat on the back, so that it's easy to see with the coral beads. I'm going to put the knot into the opening of the cutters. I'm going to pull it away so it's not by the bead, and then I'm going to hold the bead, and then I'm going to cut the knot. What you don't want to do is you don't want to pull the silk or the thread, and as you pull it, like, you don't want to go this way and possibly bring the knot into the bead.
Because once that knot is in the bead, you guys, the story is over.
And that's often what you see when you're pulling beads apart, and the thread is glued into those last few beads. And that's it. That's how you do it. You shimmy it or jimmy it away, cut, and then here are some ivory beads, and you can see how the up against the gold, the ivory stains. But this will just come off I just have to wash this, and this will come off the ivory beads.
So
most of it, at least.
How would we wash our beads then? You do that
You
when
can
we
wash-
get pearls in.
Pearls get dusty, and I will wash pearls, but not after they've been knotted, because when you wet the thread, then you stand a chance of the thread stretching.
But let's say that this pearl strand here,
It's
the
dirty.
pearl strand,
What would I do to clean it?
If you were going to restring this, you could wash them when they're on the strand.
I could clean them now. And the way I would clean them now is I would take a soft paper towel or a very soft dish towel. I would moisten it with a tiny little bit of what's the one you called it?
The Dawn.
The Dawn, see? And then wet it, and then I would just go like this very gently, and I would clean
the
them up.
Dawn.
So it's not going into where the
Into the
thread
thread?
is,
Mhm.
but I'm able to take any kind of excess, dirt or gunk on it, and that's one way of cleaning them. Can everyone see that I used green silk
Yes.
or
That
nylon
peridot
with
color.
that? Yeah.
So, question of two actually. You're using silk here. We have a viewer who's asking what size Ceylon would you use, and the second question was from Cindy from earlier, but I didn't get to it because we were going to talk about pearls, which was she had a bag of pearls from her that she inherited from her mom, and they got sticky. She wants to know how to clean them.
I would just, this is Cindy, I would get a colander, right, as long as they're not glass pearls,
If they're glass pearls,
then I would say, I'm not really sure, because you get them wet
and they
and
peel.
they start peeling. But if they are really either cultured or
test 'em.
fresh water, you could try one or two. But to get that stickiness off, what I usually do with my pearls is I'll just get a colander that's like a screen colander, and I get a bowl of like a mixing bowl, and I fill the mixing bowl with warm water with a little bit of Dawn, and then I dip the colander in and out of it, and I'll take my hand in the colander and I just gently rub the pearls against each other, and you'd be surprised how it cleans it. And then I just rinse them. I take a towel and I would carefully if they're not on a strand, I would carefully take them out and let them dry on a nice dish towel. And if you need to, if there's a little bit of stickiness left or dirt, then go in individually. But a little warm water and a little sudsy solution
Goes
will
a
clean
long
your
way.
pearls. Yeah.
And about the Ceylon question, what size would you use for knotting pearls?
I would probably, I would fine, or I would have I would definitely have the micro, because you could always go thicker and add more threads. Pearls usually have very fine holes, and you may be frustrated to find that you can do more with your micro, because you can always add a thread. But if it's too heavy for if you have cultured pearls, you're going to want something thinner. So that's what I would do.
I'm going
What's
to get
next?
to repairing fine chain without soldering.
Oh, okay, great.
Shall we? So does that answer enough? As
Yeah,
many of those?
that's great.
Great. Let's slide these pearls over.
Okay.
So our next thing we've got going on here is, so the question was, my daughter was wearing this necklace and it caught on her sweater and the jump ring came apart. The space to connect the jump ring from the chain to the clasp was very small, and it's kind of hard to see. This picture's a little bit smaller, but it's one of those chains. It's kind of flat, that has a little bit tiny opening.
Like a snake chain.
Yeah, like a snake chain. What she said was she made a jump ring from 24 gauge artistic wire. After making the jump ring, she hammered it, and once she was able to get it through the chain and onto the clasp, I decided to overlap the ends so the ring wouldn't separate. She said, when would you need to use a small jump ring at a point that will receive a lot of stress? Is it okay to overlap it for security? So what happened on this piece is, if this is that good old barrel clasp,
Right.
one more time, right? There's the barrel clasp. Whoops, right there. And the loop on one side is like that, and then the loop on the other side is like that. And that loop, what she did was connect it to a thin gauge jump ring that overlapped like that, and then here are your flat chain links. Okay? This connection right here is either going to A, come apart, or B, catch on something. So I would say that this needs to be redone in a wire wrap. And what I'm going to do is so instead of doing a jump ring, I got some little tiny chain. This is a pretty small opening. It looks maybe comparable.
Well, she also mentioned that it was a chain that wouldn't bend.
No, that was Gita's.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have two chains.
Okay.
So what I'm going to do here, like if this was this side of the barrel clasp, I'm going to make a little figure 8 tag that's wire wrapped in the middle, that's going to connect to this loop and to my chain. And so there's a skill builder that's linked on this, you guys, but I wanted to talk a little bit about the size of wire and how important it is to have some wire in your stash. This is 28 gauge, and I'm using a different color. We have a bronze actually that matched, but I wanted to use, and Gracie, am I okay over there, or do you want me to come around?
No.
Okay. I wanted to use a color that had some contrast to it. I'm sorry, I said I was going to come around, but you're
okay.
all right. All right. I'm going to come in. I'm just going to cut this little bit of chain so I can get a link, free a link out here. So I want this to be pretty fine. So this is 26 gauge that I'm using. So I'm just going to bend, and we have, as I say, we have a skill builder that talks about how to wire wrap a bead unit. It's really essentially the same thing. But I'm going to come in and I'm just going to, before I wire wrap that closed, it either needs to connect to the loop of the clasp, especially if this loop doesn't open, or it needs to connect to the loop of the chain. I'm going to connect it to this chain. Do you have a little clasp or something there, JP?
Yeah, let me find something.
So see, I just slide it right through there. And I want to make the loop as small as I can. Then I'm going to come in. I'm going to hold, I'll move my fingers out of the way so you can see that. See how I hold everything tight with the tip of my chain nose? Then I use my bent chain nose to come in and give it maybe 2 little wraps. Then I'm going to cut that little tail away using my wire cutters. Then, if I wanted to, I could put a bead on here to make it decorative. Or I can just wire wrap it. I'll take anything. I'll take that little lobster.
It's not too small?
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Let's bend. I'm going to bend that wire at an angle right where I made that wrap. Very tipped because I want the tiniest of loops, you guys. The tiniest of loops. Before I get too excited and wire wrap that closed. And obviously I'd be using all the same color of metals to really make it all blend, but this is so you can really see it. I'm going to hold that loop with my chain nose, and I'm going to come in, and since this wire is such a fine gauge, I can go over, just tilt my tool there, I can go over my initial wire wrapping, and it's going to be just fine. I'm going to cut away my extra wire.
That looks very cool.
Being very careful not to let that wire come up and hit me in the head. And see that little tiniest of little ends of wire, little pokey points. I'm going to get my chain nose, my bent chain nose rather. Sorry, I have to turn it to myself so I can see what I'm doing.
It makes a difference having a bent chain nose.
Oh my gosh.
Instead of having it like,
yeah. No, because I don't have to do this awkwardly with my arm.
Yeah.
The little fingers of the chain nose do exactly what I wanted.
And then you test it to make sure it's smooth.
It's smooth.
It's not gonna. I hate that when it scratches my neck.
And so this, instead of having a jump ring, that's what we always used to say at the store, that jump rings jump off of jewelry. That's why they're called a jump ring. But having this little overlapping thing here, you won't have those that catch, and it's nice and
nice
closed
seal.
up.
Nice seal.
And again, you could put a little decorative bead in the middle of that wire wrapping if you wanted.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great job.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Wire's my spirit animal.
Yeah.
Now we get to Gita's question. Gita sent this one in, and so Janice, this is one we were talking about earlier about your friends and mine. The crimps.
Oh,
so
yes.
let's just pretend that this is Gita's wire, or that this is her chain.
Is that chain too big for this?
I don't think so.
I think it is. I
we
think we
lay
need
it
to
in
get
there?
even a smaller chain. I think this is too
wanna see
big.
it.
Yep.
It's a
I
little
think
big.
it's a little big.
Well,
So
what
let me
Gita's
go
question
grab-
was,
okay,
Janice is going to go grab something small.
Can I just ask a question about what you made?
Mhm.
Susan wants to know if the new link needs to be worked hardened.
You know, Susan, it's a good question, since this wire is so thin, it's a thin gauge, and it is kind of delicate, I wouldn't work hard in it. Just by shaping it and wire wrapping, we've gotten a little bit of work hardening. And this is that vintage bronze or vintage copper, antique copper, the craft wire. So it has a little bit of hardness to it anyway, so I think you'll be fine with that. Oh, there we go.
So I got a chain that I think
will work.
Yeah.
So what Gita asked with her necklace is, she got this necklace from her sister-in-law, and she was wondering if we had any ideas about how to repair it. So you can see it's one of those, it's actually not a one of these chain, what is this kind of chain called? Dog chain. But it's really similar. It's something that you can't open up to get a link in there. So you could take it to the jeweler and he could solder, since this is sterling, this could be soldered back on. You would have to fabricate a new little fold over thing for that. But if you were going to be repairing this yourself, we have a couple of findings here. I'm gonna get a fresh.
Yeah, let's get a fresh piece of
copy paper. We have these little fold over crimps.
Yeah,
and
I love these.
I love them too, and I think they work really well as stand-ins for stuff like this. So what you could do, what Janice has done with this little bit of chain, she's just laid it right in
my
the
trick
crimp.
though is to go a little further.
Oh, that's
because it's like incredibly difficult to get it.
Clever.
So I go a little bit beyond it,
right.
and then I pick it up and I fold it one
over?
side and then the other side.
Let me see if I can do it.
And then I use a really good flush cutter to cut off the excess chain. Yeah.
So I'd be here like this.
Yeah.
This all may end in tears. You never know. One at a time. One at a time. And then I gently turn it over.
Yeah, and if you pinch, you have the chain to pinch so that it's long enough. Now, if you are repairing something, you have to be really careful about how generous
pressure
you are and how many links beyond the channel you can go, because you're going to lose length.
I'm going to cut this apart.
But then you check that it's secure, and then you can cut off what you don't need, and away you go.
That's not going anywhere.
No.
And what I was asking Janice earlier when we were preparing for this broadcast, I asked her if she would use any glue. And you could use a little bit of Zap glue if you wanted in the channel. I don't know.
I don't think you need it, but if you're using something like one of these tube ends,
so let me see.
I would definitely, because I just definitely think it's a good idea, but I don't think you need it with the fold over.
So we also
Will that fit in that?
I don't know. I'm going to check. It does.
Yeah. So that I would glue in there, and then you flatten it.
I'm going to put it down.
And the middle
so
adheres to the chain.
I'll just go right inside there, but you guys can see that. So I put a little bit of glue in that channel, close it up.
Do you want to close it up? Let's see if it works.
And we have some that are a little bit smaller too. That one's a little too small.
Is it?
The 1 millimeter, but the 2 millimeter.
Okay, well let's see. Repairing jewelry is always a problem solving.
It's like a little puzzle.
It's never like, oh well, this one size fits all. It's always.
I didn't put any glue in there, but
no. But let's just see. You struggle with this. Can you?
Got it.
So you flatten that. Will that work?
I bet it will. I have to get a little closer to me. Sorry, Grace. I have to. My arms aren't as. There we go. I just had to get it in there.
Is that?
Yeah.
That's.
I just need to really crimp it.
Yeah.
And I think our little bit of glue trick will help it a lot. But you can see it's in there. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But just a touch of glue, because I don't want to over crimp this too much.
Yeah.
See how these oval crimps you guys have? They're meant for cord. I don't know if you can see in that center one, there's a little tooth that comes down. That's what bites that cord and keeps it in place. So what I would do is a little bit of glue. I'd put a little bit of glue maybe on my head pin here. put it right down into the crimp, and
yeah.
then put that right in. So those are two ways that this could be repaired, that this could happen. I hope that helps, Geeta.
She's been on it with the links, so hopefully we helped her with her link issue.
All right. Now we're getting to some gluing, Janice.
Yes, so we want to talk about the little trick first.
You show that while I set this up.
So this is something that Brittany taught us, was taking a makeup sponge. Like, we always get questions, how do we deal with the top of on the hypo cement?
Mm-hmm.
And if I don't know if you can zoom in on that, but can you see how all that glue has gotten clogged in the top? That's like really common. Well, what Brittany had said, why don't we just put it into a makeup sponge, and you just kind of squirt, shove it on, and then just make sure the end doesn't stick through. And then the only other trick is you have to make sure you leave it standing up. And I like to just put it in my tape dispenser like that. And that's how I store it in my studio, just like that.
It's a really good idea.
And
smart.
It's nice to keep the tip in case you like wanted to put a little glue into that crimp in just now. You could use this little tiny thing if you didn't want to use. But I always have toothpicks handy. Toothpicks and Q-tips.
Perfect.
Okay, so now we're gonna.
These are actually an earring from our Grace. Brought these in, and aren't these are really cool? They're designed with some plated base metal findings, so when something like this breaks, there's no soldering. Something like this.
No. Why not?
Because the metals, none of this would survive the torch.
No, too hot.
Too hot. This would all melt into a little ball, and Gracie would have a nice melted ball of metal and beads and stuff. It would be sad. But what happened with her piece is, a lot of times the way that these pieces are made with this metal, it's fairly soft. So something like that little end, you can see that little loop, would just come off. It would just break off. So we're going to go ahead, and you're going to do a little trick. I'm going to make you the finding for it.
Right.
So I'm going to get rid of this little loop that was on here from Grace's piece. I'm just going to clip it and take it off. So now we've got our little guy, and we need to make a connection to have those connect.
Right.
Now I've grabbed one of our bronze head pins at your request, Janice. I think it's a perfect color match, and also these have been stiffened a little bit, so they're not gonna open up.
Right.
So we're gonna make that little loop, we're gonna make a figure 8 tag, and that little loop is gonna get glued right on the back. And before we glue it, I'm also gonna make a loop going the other way, and that loop going the other way is gonna connect to that loop on the top of this charm. So let me just make that loop. I don't wanna make it too big.
Nope.
But I'm gonna bend it at an angle to start my loop. I'm gonna cut away my extra, making sure that my wire doesn't go flying. And maybe that's a 1/4 of an inch, maybe it's a little bit more.
Well, how much is the other earring? How far away, how big a loop is the other one? Because that's what you want to mimic.
Yeah, it's not huge, but
so,
I'm gonna...
Yeah, it's just normal. So we're gonna have to...
What I do when I check that size, I would cut my wire...
It's this top one.
Yeah, it's that top one right there.
So that's about the same size. Yeah.
And what I could do, if I had cut wire that was a little more generous and the loop was a little big, all I would do, let me hold this in the plier, all I would do is I'd clip it off just a touch, and I'd loop it again to make it smaller. So it's better to cut a little bit more than you think if you're not quite sure, because then you could clip it away and close it. So let me just make sure that this is nice and closed.
And I am going to get...
I've got some plastic baggies. What do you need?
Well, you know what I wish we had is I wish we had a piece of bread.
Oh.
A piece of bread. Because when we go to glue this, you've got something that's this way, then something that's that way.
Right, we need something.
We don't want to necessarily have to stand there and hold this the whole time.
You could put it face down this way. you know what I use is I use a little bit of rice.
Rice
this.
would work. We don't have any rice today.
No rice.
But what you want to do is you want to create a situation
where it's
before
stable.
you even get the glue going. You're able to go, okay, this is going to go like this. See how this is? So we would have to hold this like this.
Well, what I would do is I'd probably glue it and then maybe attach this afterwards.
Okay.
Because this loop is open. I mean, it's not a wire wrapped loop.
Well, let's open the bottom one.
So it doesn't
so
glue
that
closed.
when we have to fiddle with it, we're only having to close it. We're not
That's
having
a good idea. Back
you
and
know,
forth.
take it and
Right.
maybe, so that would help a lot.
Would you guys use crazy glue on Ceylon and metals? Like for this instance?
I don't use crazy glue
No.
ever.
We would use, sometimes I use crazy glue,
Do you?
but I don't
You're a
use
rebel.
it. I don't use it. I might use it for gluing rhinestones.
Yeah. Well,
But-
for rhinestones,
Yeah.
I would use that hypo cement. But
Right.
And
Yeah,
while
this
we're
is ready.
talking about earrings, Darla wants to know how you would remove a clip-on earring finding from an antique silver earring.
Oh, hold that thought. We'll talk about that in a second. That's a good question. So what I'm doing is, see, I opened this back, and now, like Janice suggested,
Now
I'm
we
just
can
going to
glue
make
the-
sure, see how I'm checking it to make sure that it's going to fit.
Right.
And notice, you guys, how I have the loop, the opening to the back. I don't want this opening in the front. I want it in the back. So when I go ahead to when I put this guy on, I just put it in from the back and then I'll close it.
Did you try it? Did you check?
I'll check it.
Just check that
Make you happy.
it's large enough to fit that and swing. Okay, perfect.
Swing freely.
Yeah, okay, good. Good.
Cool.
I would just check it, because once you glue,
Once you glue your S-O-L.
Okay. That's right. Okay.
All right, so this is ready.
Okay, so
So
we're
what glue are you using, Janice?
I'm using the Zap glue.
And would you apply it directly, or would you put your Zap on your baggie and apply it with the rest of the head pin?
Well, you would apply it over here, and so that's what I'll do.
I mean, you, I think, Janice, with your steady hand, could do it. I think sometimes when people haven't used the glue before, people may have a tendency to put on too much glue.
And we have a question about E6000.
Oh, E6000.
I think it works. It's just not as, like, epoxy-ish. Like
It's
for
not
sh-
as,
it's-
yeah, I feel like I don't get the best.
Like when I'm making like a prairie necklace or something, I want to use the Zap. I don't want to use the E6000.
And Whitney's asking, she's saying she's trying hard to find a strong glue that doesn't smell horrible and isn't harmful.
Well,
Oh.
Whitney,
Good luck with that, girl.
yeah. The glue inherently is, you know, used in a well-vented area. That's just how
Yeah.
glue is, unless you're going to use wheat paste. But nothing's going to hold together that way, so.
Okay, so I'm
Um,
just gonna.
Yeah, and so see how Janice is just really
Do you have
kind of
another
zhuzhing?
pin?
Yeah.
You
You wanna-
the wire that will work.
I can't get it. There you go. And here's a fresh head pin too if you want it.
I just want to make sure it's nice and steady,
Yeah.
and I'll just turn it over, make sure it's
Centered.
already dry.
Yeah.
It's
there.
It's done.
Done.
Yeah,
And that was with the Zap.
yeah. I mean that's like
It's great.
that's in.
Yeah, and we can adjust that loop a little bit if we have to. But look at that. That's great.
Yeah. So now all you have to do is add that to this.
Look at that teamwork.
Yeah,
Bam.
you look at that, and then all you have to do is go back very carefully
And close
and
it up.
close it.
I would let this cure.
Yeah.
I'd let it sit.
Yeah,
I like letting my glue sit overnight undisturbed.
yeah, yeah. And I'll just like push the. It's
done.
It's
stop
done.
Stop fiddling.
Stop. Yeah. Stop.
We like to fiddle.
Yeah,
It's like
but
this.
that's
so it's
done.
done. It's great.
Just make sure you don't put the nice stone in any
in
puddle
any
of
glue.
glue, and then just attach it, and your way you go. You've got a nice new
Thank you
earring.
so
Magic.
much, ladies.
Yeah.
To finish this up, because I know we've got to finish, and I want to show one more thing.
Well, wasn't there another question? Did we get to?
The
oh, cutting.
clip-on earrings.
Oh, the clip-on
How would you
earring.
do the clip-on?
So you just take a.
Like a wire cutter.
No, I just take, here's one. You just take a chain nose plier.
But you would pretend. I think she's saying taking a clip-on finding off.
Yeah.
But
right?
it's the same.
Same thing.
It's the same thing. You just want to fiddle with it, and you get the end of it off back and forth. If
Let the metal fatigue.
you may end up not being able to get the flat pad part, and then you have to glue on top of it. But usually you can pull that up with a plier. That's how I normally do it. And see if it'll. I don't know how old this is. I don't know what the glue is on it, but that's how I would do it. I use a plier, and I take
Rotate it back and
where
forth.
the clip attaches is where I usually start working.
Right.
I have
Like
a
if
clip.
this is the clip pad, it kind of connects to here and here,
Well,
and
here.
then the back.
Here's
Oh,
a clip
yeah.
pad. So where I would pull it off is I start working it back here. Not up here. That nothing will work like that, but I work back here. This I'd have to be careful I don't crack it because it's ceramic, and then I'll go like that, and I'll just
Back
pull
and
it
forth.
off.
Darla's saying hers is soldered on.
Yeah. So if it was soldered, so one of the things I might do
Just
is
cut it.
I would start by removing this.
Yeah, I'd cut that with a really good, like the.
Oops.
What
Yeah, a really good, like
You
like
did like
your
the
old
You're good, like your memory wire
cutter
cutters
or
something really that's
yeah,
not going
that's
to
pretty
damage
heavy
it.
duty.
Yeah.
And then what you can also do is see like this connection here. I would lift it and pull this out.
Right.
Then where it's soldered, like if this were soldered here,
Right.
I'd come in and I'd clip it,
Right.
remove all of that. Then I'd just get my emery board from my
Nail file,
your
yeah.
nail file, and I would file that down really
Yeah.
carefully, so it's not a pointy or rough
Right.
connection.
Right.
Then you can glue, like you have
Right on
that
top.
that earring
a
pad
pad,
with
yeah.
the post,
Yeah.
and you can decide. Having the back of this on there may affect the weight of the earring, so sometimes I would turn it upside down and have this like at the bottom, if the earring didn't have a top and the bottom.
So you might have to go up a little higher on it
Right,
because
so see
it
here.
doesn't have the prong of the clip-on to hold it upright.
Because you don't want it, if you don't situate, like let's say that this was my earring that I was going to glue it onto.
So you want to use those too.
If I glue it in the very center and I have a big earring like this, when I go to wear it, this earring's going to fall forward because it's weighty. So I would re-glue a pad with post near the top so that it's not top heavy. And again, like Janice has here, these earring backs that have the plastic disc around them, that'll also help this earring not fall forward.
And,
Like-
and these come in a variety of sizes, and so you want to go as big as you can
With the back.
with the back, and then these clutches
Right,
that
will-
have the little foam inside. You don't want to marry those from one pair to another. I mean,
They
you want to
stay.
marry them with the same because the foam opens.
And
most
fits.
of this stuff you can get like at Rio Grande. Is that where
Yeah, a lot of big
jewelry
jewelry
supply-
houses carry
yeah,
them,
yeah.
jewelry supply.
So-
So the other thing, this illustrates this really well, you guys. If we had glued this earring back to the center, this would fall forward.
right?
So always up towards the top.
A little bit more towards the top, and if you use a back like this, it also gives
Also
it
helps it.
the structure. Think about, I wouldn't use base metal unless your ears are super sturdy for these pads. I would go with
a
either
sterling, I agree.
sterling or at least
Surgical
gold fill,
steel.
14 karat gold fill. And the larger one is like a 10 to a 12 millimeter pad.
Can I just
Question,
ask?
yeah.
Sorry. Janice,
No,
you
sorry.
mentioned glue earlier with your prairie bracelet. You were saying you prefer Zap. And now we have a clarification question. Do you use Zap with Ceylon, or was that specifically because you were using metal sliders, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't use Zap glue with Ceylon. I would use the GS Hypo Cement.
yeah.
Because it seals the thread, but it also breathes. When you are gluing leather into something metal, we're gonna pull on it. We're gonna, like this trail ride bracelet, which I wear just about every week. This is done with the Zap glue. I don't want that coming out for any reason. And so that wouldn't hold up with the hypo cement. I'm not even sure it would hold up with E6000.
No, I would agree with that.
I mean, I like E6000. It's a good general overall glue. I don't know how much better it is than GS Hypo. So anyway, so what are we doing now?
Now we're gonna, this is our last one. And this is something that we used to do at brick and mortar bead
this
shop
is our
all the
repair.
time.
Oh my gosh, you've got the tiniest.
Right.
Like these are
The
like
tiniest.
teeny tiny.
I need a little tray, please. A little
tray.
dish or a little dish.
Oh,
I got a corral base. So this is a little marcasite earring, and I know that you guys have seen these before, but the question is, pair of marcasite earrings has missing stones. What's the best way to securely glue the stones in place? Now, repair rhinestones you can also find online. I would do a little search for repair rhinestones.
They're point back usually.
Point back rhinestones. We used to have some at the store. Janice has an old stash of them here.
I'm gonna take them out so everyone can see bigger sizes because that's so small.
Super tiny.
Yeah. So
one of the things great, and would you get kind of a larger one out because I want to show you.
Yeah.
One of the things, you guys, the challenges of gluing something like this, if I were to get my tweezers and I would try and pick these guys up and bring them over and try and pop them into glue, I would have to have such a steady hand, these guys would just end up all over the place, even with ones that are this size. So I learned this, I think I might have learned this from Rita, maybe.
Oh, okay.
I think, for repairing. But I know I learned this at the bead shop back in the day. What I make is, I make a little rhinestone picky-uppy tool. That's what I call it. You can either use the end of a Q-tip, the end of a toothpick, or in this case I'm using the end of this eye pin. And I've got my beeswax. And I've taken a little bit of the beeswax and I've warmed it between my fingers. And I'm going to make a little tool. I'm going to make it and then I'll show you. I put a little bit of beeswax on the end of this pin. So I have a fine little point. Can you guys see that there? Maybe that's a lot, but I don't mind. Then if I were going to pick up a rhinestone, see what that does? See how that's a game changer? That just picks up my little rhinestone. And then when I go to put it in my piece, the glue's going to grab it and I'll be able to just put it right in where it goes. This obviously is too large for that marcasite, so let me show you how I'd put that together. I get my trusty plastic baggie and I'm going to get my hypo cement. I'm going to place the earring. Now this one, it looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All of these are missing. So I'm going to make my little puddle.
So hypo, not zap here?
Not zap, hypo. Because the hypo cement is much more viscous and much thinner. So it's going to flow right into that space nicely without being too bulky. I don't know if that makes sense, but the gel, this is a gel, so it's a little, it has a little more viscosity to it. The GS is a little thinner and flows nicely. I'm just going to get the tiniest of little, this is just the residue from the metal or the wire wrap I was doing earlier. I'm going to get a little of that hypo tube, hypo cement, and I'm going to dot it in the little well. Repairing rhinestone jewelry. You used to do that too, Janice, right? At your mom's store.
Yeah.
That's how you got your start.
But I did it by wetting the tip of my finger with a little saliva. And picking up the rhinestone.
Really, that way.
And then pop. This is much more, first of all, hygienic.
Ish.
Ish. And it's also
there we go.
Yeah. That's
So can you
like,
see I put all of the little wells now have the hypo cement.
this is beyond me.
And
I
I'm
mean,
gonna get Janice, I learned this
they're
from you
tiny.
guys
I
from
know,
way
but
back in the day.
They're so tiny.
I know, tiny. So I'm gonna see how that just sticks, even though it's microscopic, and I don't see that well anymore, you guys. So see, bam, one.
Hey,
Let's do this other one.
what about
Bam.
this? What about using this?
Two. Oh, yeah, you show that when.
Yeah, this is like
and
really.
three.
Look,
Can you
try
see
it. Try
Three.
it.
Oh. Okay.
And then you have that
Nice.
really microscopic.
What?
And
This
goes
is crazy.
around your neck. It goes
This is
around
crazy. Can you still see what I'm doing, Gracie? Because now that I can, it's pretty exciting. You're kidding me.
Don't you love it?
Yes, I do.
What are those things called? They're called
Easy
Magna-
Mag.
What?
Easy Mag.
Yeah, Easy Mag.
Lynn says to pick up small stones, she uses quick stick poker picker-upper. She uses it for scrapbooking tiny paper pieces. Hot
Oh.
Fix also makes a tool to pick up stones.
Oh, I bet they do. I bet they do. The Hot Fix. Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to. You know what? Now that I'm using this thing,
You can really see it.
I can really see it. I need to flip these stones. Because who was super smart and gave me that? Her name was Janice Parsons.
Well, while you're
I'm gonna take
doing
that
that,
one
can
out.
I just do a little primer on stones?
Yeah, will you?
Okay, so Grace, can you just come over here a second? So I just want to show everybody about the point backs. You can get them gold backed. You can get them silver backed.
Mm-hmm.
And depending
Foil,
on foil backed with their gold or silver, different colors. And it'll change the sense of whether it's warm or cool. Look at your piece of old jewelry, see what sometimes there's a little bit of flaking left of the old stones that have come out, and you can see it doesn't make that much difference if you use gold or silver backed. And then what I wanted to show over here is the difference between flat back and point back. So here is most of the old jewelry has the point back stones because they fit into a cup.
Right.
The flat backs don't fit into the cup. Sometimes you'll, like for instance, the old Christmas tree pins that had the different colored stones in it.
Which I have a collection of.
Those are all done with, pretty much done with point back. Some of the more modern jewelry is done with flat backs.
Yeah, flat backs.
But that's my little primer on why, when in the old jewelry, the point back give you much more of a sense that it's a real jewel. And more just, more shine to the stone versus the flat back, which is, it's okay, but it's not going to give you, even in this little stone, how much smaller it is, but how much more like a diamond it shines. That sounds like a good name of a good song or something.
Well,
So
I've
you got
managed to
that
get them
done?
all in there.
Great.
Yeah. And so what I'll do is I can just come in maybe with my little piece of wire, but I just want to make sure that everybody is happy in there.
That's great.
But again, it's just that little, picking that up and just throwing them in with that little bit of beeswax. But that was done. That's not too bad.
No.
And this was...
That's
oh my
a game
gosh.
changer. Yeah.
I can totally see. Oh yeah, see, look at that one's a little...
But this goes around your neck.
I know, right? So I'm going to wear it now.
Yeah, and you adjust it to where you want it so that you can wear it like right there, and then you work in front of you. Yeah, it's like...
Who knew?
Faye loves your ring, Kate.
Thanks, Faye.
Yeah.
Thanks. This looks really good. Thanks for bringing this in, Gracie. I think it looks nice. All right.
Okay.
Are you exhausted?
No, I'm energized, and I want to just have a counter again.
I know, to do this over. I know, I feel the same way.
Because it uses
The
a part
bead
of
doctor.
your brain that just designing doesn't use. You have to problem solve.
It's fun.
And you have to design, you have to style, you have to make the customer happy. So, yeah.
So this one was a long one because we
It
had
was.
so much to repair. We actually had a few questions, you guys, that we didn't get to.
No.
But Janice and I are going to do this again because we really hope you enjoyed it. We loved it.
Yeah.
So even if you're not going to watch, we'll probably do it again.
Yeah.
But it was a great idea. You know, Grace actually came up with this
Yeah.
idea when we were brainstorming about what to do for different Facebook Lives. And Grace was all, in her little way, when she does this, she has a good idea, she does this. How about we do jewelry repair?
Yeah.
And we said, that's a great idea. So a lot of you sent your repair questions to repair.beadshop@gmail.com. Keep those coming. We will be glad to stockpile more questions and do this again maybe in a few months. We'll be glad to do that. So send your pictures, send your comments. All go to repair.beadshop@gmail.com. Well, we've got a couple of orders of business before we go,
What's
Janice.
What's up? What are you
We've
giving
got
away today?
So we've got a couple of things to do. For 2 house cleaning bits.
Okay.
Housekeeping. We've got a sale going on today
Wow.
on tools.
Wow.
So tools, it's a 1-day flash sale. So today is Wednesday, March. How did it get to be March already? The end of March. March 29th,
Wow.
2017. We're having a 1-day tool flash sale. 20% off when you add your coupon code TOOL20.
That is ridiculous.
Sorry, am I in trouble? Am I in trouble?
It's great for our customers, but that is.
I know,
that
it's a great
20%.
Everyone
Everyone out there, it's today. I'm sorry if you're watching this tomorrow or the next day or in a year, but it's 20% off tools.
I know, it's a good one.
Is a really great sale.
So it's going to go on tonight until midnight Pacific time. Okay, so place your order, put in that code, and that'll knock 20% off of your tool order. You can order whatever you'd like, but that 20% is just going to apply to tools. We also have a giveaway.
What are we giving away?
Well, this I put, in our email when I sent it out. I said that it was one of our favorite tools in our toolbox, and it really is. We've used it a lot today, and it is our knotting tweezer.
Yes.
Yes. So everyone who makes an order today, 3/29/2017, and in your order notes, this isn't where the coupon goes, but there's a little box there that says anything you want to tell us about your order. If you put free tweezers in that box, we're going to send you a pair of knotting tweezers, our favorite tool. That goes on until 1 o'clock. So you've got about an hour, a little less than an hour because we went long today. So maybe we'll extend it to maybe 1:15.
Okay.
How about we do that?
What else are we going to include?
And you went and bought some things.
I got some of these sponges, so everybody who puts in free tweezers, we're going to throw in one of these little sponges.
Sponges for the top of your hypo cement because we've been talking about this for so long. So free tweezers in the box before 1 p.m. We'll fudge it a little bit about 1:15 on 3/29. If you guys are watching this and not watching it live and you missed the giveaway, I'm really sorry. We're sorry that we can't give it away all day, every day, but sign up for your newsletter.
Yes.
Our newsletters have specials, they have discounts, they have giveaways. We had 3 great winners this past weekend when we gave away some gift certificates through our newsletter.
Right.
And the last thing we want to mention is to a quick thing to our Canadian customers. You may have seen on our shipping FAQ, and we had sent out an email. There's been a few shipping regulations that have been changed, so we are now only doing tracking, orders with tracking to Canada. And we've done a lot of our tracking. Most of our orders that were sent a few weeks ago before we instituted this change have actually made it to people, but there may be a few orders that are still straggling out there, and we're really, really sorry about that. You can go to our shipping FAQ page and learn a little bit more, but if you do have any questions about your packages to Canada not arriving, hit up our info@beadshop.com. Our customer service department will be glad to help you with that. We really appreciate your patience on that. And is there a question about that,
There
Grace?
is about the free giveaway, actually.
Okay.
And Geeta's already answered it. But the question is, do you have to purchase something in order to get the free tweezers?
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. So what you do is you go in and you place an order of any size at beadshop.com. And once you're ready to check out, put free tweezers in that comments box and you will get your tweezers on us.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it, kiddo.
Gracie, any final words?
No.
We're good.
We had a great episode. Thanks,
yeah,
guys.
it was a great idea. Thank you guys for making it so special. Next week, we're going to do Prairie.
Prairie is next week?
Yeah.
Is Prairie next week or is Bollywood?
Oh, no, it's not next week. Bollywood is next week.
Is
Sorry, I almost made Janice have a conniption.
Yeah.
So our next two.
A little bit conniption. The learning has to finish.
So we're going to be doing our Bollywood next week, which is going to be beautiful.
Designs, new colors. We're going to go through everything.
And then the week after that, you guys love Janice's trail ride so much.
We have new designs for
new
Prairie.
Designs, new leather, new cool stuff. So I'm sorry to give you a heart attack.
That's okay.
I don't even know what day it is. Cheers to you. Cheers to you.
Have a great week, everyone.
We'll see you guys soon.
Okay. Bye-bye.